Hiya, welcome back to my channel. It's Wendy here from Toonpish Crafts and I hope you're doing okay. Today I'm going to be making Christmas tree decorations using one of Jadey'sart's moulds. Now you may have seen them recently where I made the dragon heads and the teddy bears. Well, I also purchased 2 Christmas tree decorations and I thought perfect for me to show you some techniques that I use for making these sort of things. Yeah, let's have a look. So these 2 little moulds are from Jadey'sart. The link will be in the description box below and I'm going to be using some Let's Resin bronze colour. This is not mica powder, it is a powder that is absolutely stunning. But it's not mica powder, it doesn't act in the same way mica powder does. And I will link a video in the top right hand corner that shows when I first used this powder. It is amazing stuff. If you haven't tried this powder, you really should. I can't sing its praises enough. Anyway, I'm using the bronze colour, which I think is labelled wrong and should be called copper, but you know, these things happen. It says bronze on the bottle. I'm dusting it all over the plain parts of the mould. Now this powder does go everywhere and you only need a little tiny bit of it. So it is likely to travel into the crystallised parts of these moulds, and you know what, I don't really mind. This colour's stunning, so I don't mind it travelling into those little parts. I do have a 10% off code for anyone in the UK for Let's Resin, and that is Wendy's 10. But all my discount codes and affiliate links are on my website, toonpish.com. Look at that shimmer on that colour. These moulds come in 2, a big one and a little one. So I'm going to do exactly the same for the little one. Now with this powder, it's always best to put black behind it because it pushes the colour out. So I'm going to be using a little 10ml bottle and I'm going to put some Let's Resin resin mixed with Vista black colourant, which is a gorgeous silky black colourant, into a little 10ml bottle and just put the black over the bronze. These little 10ml bottles are extremely handy to use, they really are. Now although I find that using a really thin runny resin is a lot easier in these bottles, I have used thick resins and they work perfectly fine as well. But it is easier to squeeze out thin resin. And obviously the working time of a resin is quite important. If you're going to take a little time getting this right, what you really want to do is make sure that the resin doesn't go off in your little bottle. So yeah, make sure you've got a decent amount of working time if you're going to do this method. A lot of people have been asking me about cleaning these bottles out, so I've included in this video a little video on how I clean the bottles out. These little 10ml bottles and everything else I use in this video will be linked in the description box below. And if you have any questions or comments, please use the comment section and a thumbs up is always really appreciated. Now what I'm doing here is I am marking out a template. This should give me a rough size and shape for a piece of dichroic film which I'm going to place in the back of this piece. Once I've got the right size template, then I can measure the dichroic film. This dichroic film has always been elusive and very hard to get hold of in the UK, and I was so chuffed when I found some on eBay. It will be linked in the description box below, but believe me, it is still hard to get. They quite often have none in stock. So although I will link it, I can't guarantee that you'll be able to get hold of it. If you can get hold of it, I really suggest that you do. It is beautiful stuff for resin. I'm putting clear Vista resin in these moulds and I'm going to be putting the film on top of the resin and making sure I press it down so all the resin goes over the film. This film is cut slightly inside the mould so that there is a gap for the resin to go completely around and over the top of the film. So there won't be any separation at all because it will be in the middle of the resin. And as there's a little border to the mould anyway, you won't see any of that. You won't see a gap around the outside edge. So with the second make, I'm going to be using the Let's Resin Silver. Again, it's a metallic powder, it's not a mica, so it does act slightly differently. I just cannot tell you how shimmery and silvery this stuff is. Absolutely gorgeous stuff. Now, I haven't shown you the demould of the first one yet. They're all going to be at the end. However, after making the first one, my son turned up. He took one look at the first one I made and said, "Can you make some that are blue and silver?" So I said, yeah, sure, whatever. So you know what mums are like. So I'm making a blue with sapphire blue Let's Resin pigment to make it a blue and silver. Now, I'd never used blue behind the silver. I'd only ever used black. So this was going to be a test to see if it would actually work. Just blue on the back of the dusted silver mould. I wasn't sure whether the silver would turn blue or wouldn't shine as much, but we'll find out. I went round the edges with a micro brush, squirted it with isopropyl alcohol and left it to cure. With the third make, I'm going to be using the Let's Resin Chameleon powder in blue, and this time I'm going to be dusting the crystal parts of the mould. Now, you can mix alcohol with mica powder so that you can guide it easier and it doesn't fly away all over the place. And I'll link a video in the top right hand corner that shows you how to do it. But it does settle in areas. And if you've got an uneven or non-flat mould, you can end up with a pool of powder in the deep areas, which is fine. But I decided not to do that here. I decided just to clean up afterwards. So I dusted with the mica powder. I'm using a cotton bud just to go around the outside edges and to clean up all the areas where I don't want the powder to be. So once I'd give it a good clean up, it was time to use the silver again, and this time I'm just going to go over pretty much the entire area with the silver. This will give it a different effect when it's finished. As the silver's going over the back of the blue, you'll still see the blue. It won't change the blue, it'll make it a little more matte so you can't see through it so much, and it might give it a different kind of silvery tint, but it'll still be blue. And again, I'm using black on the back of the silver because black is the best colour for the silver, I'm afraid. And I go around the outside with a micro brush and use isopropyl alcohol to get rid of the bubbles. I do prefer isopropyl alcohol. So with the fourth and last make I'm going to show you, yes, it's going to be blue and silver, only because my son wants blue and silver Christmas decorations. I do apologise for all being the same colour, but this time I've put the silver into resin. Now I just wanted to show you the difference of dusting the mould as opposed to putting the same powder into resin. It does act differently. Again, I'm using Vista Turbo resin with this powder and the little 10ml bottle, which does make it incredibly easy. I've cut the dichroic film using the same templates as before, so I know I've got the right size. And I'm going to use the same kind of method as before with the clear resin first, making sure I get as many bubbles out as I can. And I'm using a disposable paintbrush for this. You can clean those out with isopropyl alcohol as well. But on the back of that, I'm going to put Peacock Blue from Just For You Online UK into some Let's Resin resin, and I'm putting it all over the back. Now this is a gorgeous blue. It's really rich, it's really deep, and it's translucent, so the light will shine through it. I squirt it with isopropyl alcohol and I leave it to cure. So as I said earlier, I have had a lot of questions about cleaning out these little 10ml bottles, so I thought I'd do a quick video in the video to show how I do it. The black resin that's in this bottle is amazing clear cast resin, and it's been in the bottle for a good 15 minutes, and it had been mixed for about 10 minutes before that, so it was really thick. It's a thick resin anyway, and it really was starting to cure up. So it took me a little while to actually get the resin itself out by flushing it through with isopropyl alcohol. I then use a torn up baby wipe and a cotton bud, and sometimes the cotton buds snap and sometimes I spill the isopropyl alcohol. Why wouldn't I? I'm Wendy. But you just keep on flushing it through with the isopropyl alcohol and using the baby wipes and the cotton buds until you've got to a point where there's hardly anything in it. There is a little lip around the collar that you can't get to, or at least I can't get to it. And I let the resin sit in that, and it doesn't get in the way of the next use of the bottle. I use my bottles over and over and over again. And I always leave them upside down so that any liquid in there will run out. And while I'm cleaning out the bottles, I also clean the nylon disposable paintbrushes and my micro brushes. So now that we've cleaned up, let's get on with the demoulding. I do love demoulding day. And now you can see what I mean by the metallic powders. And the film on the back, the dichroic film, is mesmerising. The dancing of colours in that is just beautiful. It looks so opalish. This combination of colours is one of my favourites, and I know I made a lot of silver and blue, and this does stand out, but boy does it stand out. So let's see how the blue reacts to the back of the silver. Well, the silver has gone over the crystal and I am absolutely happy with that, but the silver still looks silver. Even though it has blue behind it and not black, it is definitely silver. And that blue is stunning. These moulds are gorgeous. Moving on to the chameleon powders, you may remember that I put the silver over the back of the blue. It doesn't change the blue, but it does kind of make it a silvery blue. The silver is not a mica powder, it's a metallic powder, and it doesn't exactly act in the same way that mica powders do. So it does kind of take over a little, but I still love it. I love this. So the final one is the dichroic film with blue behind it, and the silver pigment was put directly into the resin. Now for me personally, this is my least favourite, only because it looks more grey than it does silver. The blue colour behind the dichroic film actually, in my opinion, doesn't do that much. It makes it more blue. The film is good enough for me without the colour behind it. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And yes, of course I dropped it. So after demoulding all of them, which are your favourites? Which is the one you prefer? I did make another one which I didn't film, and that is turquoise with a white background. I just couldn't stop making this mould. These moulds are gorgeous and they would decorate any tree just so beautifully, in my opinion. Jadey's link is in the description box below, so go and check out her website. She makes some amazing moulds. I've only had a few and I love them to bits. Thanks so much for watching this video. I hope you've enjoyed it and I hope you've got something out of it. Come back and see me next week because you never know what I'm going to be up to. I never know what I'm going to be up to. Have a great week, happy crafting, and bye for now.